can start with the session, which is in fact started with dedicated to contribution of sciences to sustainable development of Belt and Road regions. And in this, without further ado, I think that we can go to the first presentation. And I would like to introduce Professor Klaus Mainzer, which we knew from the first part of the conference, and with the title of the lecture, All Alliance of National and International Science for Sustainability Needs Sustainable AI so they put it in the philosophy of science, but I will not read this their classification. So, Professor Mainz, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At first, as President of the European Academy of Sciences and Art, let me bring the greetings of the whole Academy to this exciting event here. I was at the Academy, the Serbian Academy, at our Danube conference, and so there are close connections with this Academy and, of course, with the World Academy of Sciences and Art. Now, as a scientist, AI researcher, the title of my topic is Stability Through Resilient Systems Dynamics. And actually, it is on the background of work of mine for decades in that field, starting with complex systems dynamics, that means modeling of complex systems in science and society. And that was, by the way, because we have Chinese colleagues here, also the 5th edition translated into Chinese. Then the book on artificial intelligence, also translated, the 2nd edition in Chinese, and recently a new book series under the title Complex Systems, Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Technologies, Innovation in the 21st century. Now, on that background, I will first speak a little bit about the basics of complex systems modeling, and then from complex Earth dynamics to complex civil dynamics, and then we will consider the digital AI tools for modeling these resilient Earth and civil dynamics, and finally a roadmap for a resilient Earth and civil dynamics. Let's start with the basics. Now, here I like to remind you of this old European myth coming from Greek mythology, the goddess Gaia, the great mother of Earth, and the life is assumed to be organized in external cycles of birth and death. Anyway, you know, James Lovelock, the chemist, biochemist, and physician, came up with this so-called Gaia hypothesis. And the idea was now to consider nature as a whole organism with these feedback loops, which were already assumed in this mythology. And that can exactly be modeled nowadays with the tools of complex systems, starting with complex molecular systems, then cellular systems, and organic systems in medicine, and population systems in biology, up to the large ecological systems. And all these systems consist of many elements. They are interacting, mathematically speaking, in feedback loops in a nonlinear way. And that leads to, here you see these feedback loops, and that leads to nonlinear dynamics, and it can be the reason for emergence of new structure in nature, but also for destabilization and even chaos. And so the target should be what is called here resilience, resilient dynamics. That means that, for example, an organism, people suffering on disease, then the organism is able to recover itself. And that is demonstrated here in general terms for a dynamical system. The ball illustrates the state of a system, and that is the potential landscape of this system. And then in the case of perturbation, the ball is running up and down the walls, and but it can recover. That means resilience, or the perturbation was so strong that the ball is jumping out of the valley, and that means complete destabilization. Now, with that in mind, and you can all formalize that mathematically and calculate, let us consider a very complex system, namely the Earth system. And here again you see these feedback loops, and such a system does not only depend on natural factors like climate and energy and water, but also on all factors of human civilization like population growth, our social problems, and so on. A complex nonlinear system, and therefore very sensible to local perturbation, which can speed up to global destabilization. For example, here's a climate model. You all know that. The parameters are very sensible, and if you are beyond the critical values of these parameters, then the system becomes uncontrollable. And here an example of an urban city, metropolis, also local perturbation. That means can be a cyber attack, even political events, demonstrations, flood disaster, whatsoever, which initiate global cascades of nonlinear effects, which are illustrated here by these arrows. The crucial question is, how should we manage the nonlinear dynamics in a complex social world? And here are some highlights in the photos of such local events which can lead to global effects. On the left, the burning jungle along the Amazon River in Brazil. You know its influence to the climate development. Or on the right, the ugly, old-fashioned industry and its influence to climate or traffic. Or on the left below, a flood disaster recently in Germany. The water is out of balance. In some region we have too much water, in other region we have too less water. Now the crucial question is, that's the point of my talk, because I'm coming from the AI research. What can we do in the future with AI tools, the digital tools, in order to achieve resilient Earth and civil dynamics? Now, what is AI? AI nowadays is machine learning, and machine learning is orientated to the human brain. The so-called neural networks are a simplified model of the human brain that is illustrated here in the graph. You see the nodes representing neurons. The arrows represent synaptic interaction. They are weighted by numbers indicating the neurochemical intensity in the living brain. But here it is technical meaning. That means if such a node is excited, in this case, the sum of the neighbored inputs of the other neurons is larger than a certain threshold value. And by that, you get a stream of signals which is led through the architecture here. And the architecture is layered, by the way, such as the human brain. The neocortex has also several layers. And then the data are triggered by learning algorithms. And learning algorithms, there are several kinds. Supervised learning means that at first the system is trained by a prototype, for example, a face. A photo consists of a distribution of millions of pixels, and that is trained by adjusting the neurons, and then the system has a remembrance and is able to recognize the pre-trained photo among a huge number of other perceived pictures. And reinforcement learning means the system is able to improve its solution by itself by rewards from outside, like a child in a classroom who is corrected by the teacher. And deep learning only relates to the depth of the system. That means to the number of layers. For example, here, 5 layers. The neocortex of the human brain has 6 layers, but it is working quite similar. On the first level here, there are only colored pixels, then they are connected as edges and corners, partial faces, and the whole faces. In principle, that is all. Modern machine learning is pattern recognition with learning algorithm in a mess of data. And nowadays, we have a mathematical guarantee. There is a theorem, a mathematical theorem, which guarantees that every kind of pattern, which is represented mathematically speaking by a continuous function, every kind of pattern, there exists in a purposeful neural network which can approximate, that means recognize this picture. As a poor existent theorem, it does nothing say about the efficiency, the parameters, how good it must be. That is the fantasy of must be the fantasy of our engineers. Anyway, the systems nowadays which are used are not as simple as here with 6 layers. They have hundreds and thousands of layers, millions of neurons, and synaptic weights. For example, ChatGPT, everyone knows it. That is the US version. We have some colleagues here from China. Below there is the Chinese version, by the way, less expensive and under some aspects even more energetically efficient. Anyway, these chatbots, which are used by nearly everyone of you in everyday life, they are integrated now in a much larger network, and that is the so-called Internet of Things. That means nowadays the products you use, they are also equipped with electronical infrastructure. You can speak with the program in the job, for example, or infrastructure, or your smartphone, whatsoever. Now, this is an example of an urban system. In the urban system now, the digital infrastructure, at least in some model cities in the world, are working, growing together. On the left, that is an example from Amsterdam, different domains, health system, mobility, integrated by smart technologies. On the right, perhaps you can recognize it, that is Shenzhen, which is a model city in the world to realize this kind of digital infrastructure. Now, a crucial point now and request of mine here in that context is we must aim at the circular economy as resilient digital complex system. The reason is here on the left, you see in large parts of our Earth, there is still linear economy. And a linear economy means the people start with raw material, then the products, then consumption, and then in the end, residual waste. So the first step must be recycling of the waste, but in the end, we must transform our economies, and that needs digital tools, because a mass of data is necessary to arrange that, namely circular economy. with the sustainable production and sustainable use. That means these feedback loops of the waste, of the residual, again in the circular dynamics. So in the end, that is illustrated here more in a metaphorical way. All these digital infrastructures nowadays will grow together, integrated, such as here in the metaphor, this picture of a brain which is spread all over the planet Earth. And on the right and the left, you find already existing infrastructures which are now growing together, the smart cities, which I mentioned, smart ecology with digital support of climate systems, smart grids, the automatized industrial production, circular economy, I explained it already, and our health system, of course. Remember the pandemics, we need this digital infrastructure. And last but not least, our political systems. We need political balance in the end, also resilient dynamics, which is able to recover like an ill organism after local perturbation. So, in the end, a roadmap for a resilient Earth system. I like this picture, and I show it at our events in Salzburg towards the development towards sustainable and resilient complex system. That means at first we have actually to realize decarbonization on Earth. With not only with renewable energy, I'm afraid that will be not sufficient. We need also, I think, nuclear energy and alternative fuels, but on that basis, then we can realize sustainable development with more energy efficiency, more increasing flexibility, and last but not least, circular economy, and that only can be done with the help of AI and digital tools, as I explained it before, with the machine learning tools, Internet of Things, and in the end, we aim at resilient systems. That means sustainable development goals must be integrated into technologies of complex infrastructure. Now, my last slide, I started with a remembrance of old European mythology, the goddess Gaia. And let me end now with a metaphor of Asia. I like it, like bamboo in the wind, adapt and shape the dynamics of a resilient world in balance. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. The discussion is seen to be at the end of the session, like in all previous sessions. So we are now going to proceed to the second presentation of Professor Charalampos Baniotopoulos. I did it right?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Based nowadays at the School of Engineering, University of Birmingham, and at the Civil Engineering Department, University of Thessaloniki, and also the member of European Academy of Sciences and Arts. And the topic would be sustainable energies in the era of artificial intelligence. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lambis Baniotopoulos. I come from the University of Birmingham, UK, having a 30 years academic presence at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. And nowadays I'm also at the University of Hanover, Leibniz University at Hanover. I work principally, my background is structural engineering, civil engineering, and the last 20 years I focused on wind energy systems, sustainable energy systems, in particular wind energy systems. And the last 10 years, I'm trying to work with wind energy systems within the promising environment of artificial intelligence. So the introduction of Professor Mainzer was fantastic because it is the first step in order to present you and to understand how we apply all these ideas, the theoretical framework and the powerful tools of artificial intelligence into everyday life applications in civil engineering that usually is considered low innovation engineering. Okay, in particular, my presentation has to do with the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 7, affordable and clean energy, to ensure universal access to affordable, reliable, and clean energy by 2030. I'm not so optimistic. I don't think that the target will be reached by 2030, but already we proceeded quite well. So sustainable energy systems are at the core of the global transition to low-carbon economies, with wind energy, solar energy, and wave energy representing the most widely adopted and promising renewable sources. But all these ideas to use sustainable energy started 50 years ago, although the idea of producing from the wind energy started about 100 years ago, industrially started being used 50 years ago. But the last 15 years or 10 years, from the simple systems, we jumped to huge projects like this one for solar power, or this one where we have wave and tidal power produced, 50 megawatt at the Mersey Tidal Power Project in Liverpool, or from wind turbine towers. Just think that the onshore towers now are higher than the Eiffel Tower. Imagine the size and the challenges for a structural engineer who doesn't do very, very innovative research, but there are so many challenges in this system. And if you move this system into the water in the middle of the ocean, and then the water and the environment is so aggressive, not only from wind and waves and currents, but also from salinity, from temperatures, you imagine how many negative factors apply to these systems. So you see here the new trend from 5-10 meters wind turbine towers. Onshore, we are now to 400 meters, and in the next years we'll have even more tall towers, or in the middle of the ocean, floating systems with wind turbines, or even more challenging, the idea of modular sustainable energy islands to produce locally hydrogen, so that to use clean energy by hydrogen. And the even more new ideas to produce locally ammonia that is rich of hydrogen, and use this to power, for instance, boats. Already the first big boat started moving using ammonia, where Chile used these ideas some decades ago. So I say in the beginning that I'm not so optimistic that we will reach the target, but because nowadays, 2023, the global electricity harvested from the wind is less than 10%. So I think that there are some delays with this. In the meantime, advances go further and further, not only onshore, but also offshore. Leaders in Europe in floating structures are Denmark, UK, Germany, and the Netherlands, very few, but still this is less than 10% of the overall European wind energy. You see this system, the floating wind turbine. It is a system with floaters. We have the tower. The tower can be 100, 200 meters. We have the nacelle, the blades, and we have the mooring system. All of them under continuous movement due to the currents, due to the waves, due to the wind. And this system should operate smoothly to harvest energy. So the challenge is big. So many challenging topics to be investigated. Scipio Africanus used to be considered as the greatest strategic mind. He used to say, turpa est in re militari dicere non putaram. It's a shame in military operations to say, I hadn't thought of it. I paraphrase this saying that it's a shame in the Sustainable Development Goal to say, I hadn't thought of it. So we do our best to contribute to this direction, to enhance sustainable energy systems nowadays within the powerful environment of artificial intelligence. Last week, we had one of the first civil engineering-oriented courses on this topic with leading personalities, the leader in the USA on the use of AI for the forecast of the weather. One of the leaders in China working on the use of artificial intelligence for wind energy systems. And many other European colleagues. We organized last week this advanced course for postdocs, Advances in Wind Energy in the Era of Artificial Intelligence, and a Springer book will appear soon on this topic. That will be the first of this kind. So how we use this artificial intelligence as described previously by Professor Mainzer. The scale of wind energy industry nowadays is immense. It's not a small sector anymore. It's now well over 1,000 gigawatts of installed wind capacity globally, and is characterized by system complexity, remote operations in the middle of the ocean, for instance, and very high operation and maintenance cost. About 30 to 40% of a wind park is the cost for operation and maintenance. For centuries, construction was defined by physical labor and materials, but today it's been redefined by data and intelligence. Now we are trying to collect data using iPads, sensors, etc., and to move from smart perception into intelligent cognition, new business model that can be managed for the entire life of the assets. All this started with the so-called, the most successful failure. In the 70s, there was Apollo 13 flying towards the moon, and there was an accident. And then there was only telecommunication, nothing more. And then NASA had a digital of these rockets in their premises. They found the solution there in the digital and sent guidelines to the astronauts who repaired the rocket and returned back to the Earth. So that is considered the first attempt to use the idea of having a digital twin. That was not digital, it was natural twin, but the idea started at that time. So the year 2003, the conceptual idea was introduced by Professor Greaves in the USA, but later, the year 2010, NASA officially started using the term digital twin. That is a system that mirrors the life of its flying twin. I mean, for the applications of NASA. So, what is a digital twin enhanced by AI? Is it a software? Is it a model? Is it a mirror? One of the first consulting firms, Gartner, used several terms during the years. The year 2017 used the term dynamic software model. The year 2018 used the term digital representation. The year 2019, digital mirror. Finally, we can say that AI-powered digital model is not a simple drawing. It is a complex model that understands the geometry, the materials, the physics, and the behavior of the real world structure. Also, in addition, it is connected by data to its physical counterpart. And the third key element is timing. The connection is updated continuously, in real time. The digital twin is constantly reflecting the current state of the physical structure. And these digital twins, AI-powered digital twins, starts even before the natural asset. It starts during the design of the asset, of the project, of the wind turbine, of the building, and follows all the life of the project. So it is a dynamic model. The data flows automatically and continuously from the real turbine sensors into the model, keeping it synchronized with reality. So the model needs to be fed by data, and the data come from SCADA system, structural health monitoring system, environmental data, inspection and maintenance records, drones, cameras, simulation data too. All these, the model then acts as the central intelligence, and it is the framework that organizes the data and, most importantly, gives it a meaning. So the first direction is the flow of data from the physical world to the digital world. This is the updating flow. The second direction is similarly important. It is the flow from the digital world back to the physical world. This is the controlling or informing flow. So a digital twin can be only considered only if we have two-way data flow. If we have one-way data, we use the term digital shadow. If we have this two-way data flow, we use the term digital twin. So the artificial intelligence ecosystem in this case can be seen having three levels, three distinct steps. Everything begins with a physical layer. This is the real world. It is the physical wind turbine equipped with a network of sensors, all collecting data about the turbine's operation and its environment. The second step is the virtual modeling layer. Here the data is fed into our collection of models to be processed and analyzed. This is a very critical state because this accumulation of millions of numbers as data needs to be cleared so that we use those that are needed for the model. This layer takes the raw numbers and turns them into meaningful information, simulating the turbine's behavior and predicting future state. And then we have the third level. The output from the virtual models flows to the decision-making layer. This is the interface from the human operator, and it presents the information in a clear and useful way so that maintenance is planned in an optimized way, exactly as we saw this morning. Optimization in maintenance saves millions in monies. And from this maintenance planning, we have estimate of the remaining life of the asset. This way, we can also optimize safety criteria. That is also important to several types. You can see now the logical flow from sensing in the physical world to analyzing in the virtual world to acting in the real world. It is like we go to the doctor. We monitor the patient's health, the doctor monitors patient's health, use medical equipment to check patient's overall health, and prescribe treatment if necessary. This is the simple idea behind all this. The anatomy of the AI ecosystem is composed by these 4 parts. These 4 key pillars are the now data. They are called the now data, real-time data from SCADA systems, sensors, and so on, and historical data about structural performance, reports, data, and so on. It is the core intelligence with modeling capabilities, and these modeling capabilities merge physical-based methods, data-driven models, and hybrid models, analytics and simulation, and visualization, that is the interface with the engineer who decides about the actions. Maintenance, operation, slow down, cut off, and so on. This can be applied, I mean, the approach using digital twins can be applied to any level. I mean, at component level, at subsystem level, at turbine level, or at aeolian farm level. Wind farm, I'm sure you have heard several times the use of aeolian park. Permit me to say that I like to use this aeolian park because it comes from Aeolus. Aeolus from ancient Greek mythology was not a god. He was the treasurer of the gods because he was obliged to keep the winds or to release the winds. And he was considered the treasurer of the ancient Greek gods in Greek mythology. So what we do with AI and what makes it possible? We will explore its key application in wind energy, the technologies that enable it, and the challenges we face in its implementation. How much time I have? 5 minutes? 3 minutes? Okay. Then I will skip some parts. Using digital twins, we can have predictive maintenance, anticipating failures before they happen, allowing for scheduled, cost-effective maintenance and minimizing unplanned downtime. We can have performance optimization, continuously analyzing operation data to fine-tune turbine settings and strategies for maximum energy harvesting under varying conditions, to rapidly identify anomaly in the operation of the turbine, to assess in the best way the remaining useful life of the asset, providing a virtual environment for testing new strategies, upgrades, repowering, or extreme conditions without impacting physical operations in this digital environment, and training and workforce development. So I will skip all this in order to keep the time. The future is evolving also in these wind energy applications, in wind energy structures and infrastructure. Increased autonomy of this digital framework is an issue. Enhanced predictive and prescriptive capabilities, full life integration, advanced visualization and interaction, and integration in farm level and grid level, and greater use in the design phase of the wind energy assets and operation. So the AI ecosystem is a virtual environment that coexists with a physical asset connected by a live bidirectional data link. It combines strengths of physics-based and data-driven models to create a holistic, intelligent representation. Its core purpose is to deliver tangible benefits like predictive maintenance, performance, energy yielding optimization, and extended asset life with improved safety reliability. It relies on a technology stack on Internet of Things and cloud, and requires overcoming significant challenges in data management, model validation, and cybersecurity. Very briefly, 2 photos from some case studies that we worked recently. One of the critical problems in offshore and floating turbines is the corrosion fatigue. It is the problem number 1 nowadays in industry, the corrosion fatigue, and this is focused in flanges in the connections among the modules of the tower. So I will show you only this. We collect data. We collect data for waves and winds and correlate this. So in advanced computational models, we analyze every second the structure, and we know the forces, the internal forces in the structure. Therefore, we know the stresses on this structure. Using models about corrosion coming from physics, from material science, we know how corrosion starts being present. And there are several different models. We use this one, where it takes into account 3 levels: corrosion-driven, competition, and fatigue-driven cracks. And then we use stresses. We combine the stresses with these models of material in order to obtain models for the response of the material when we have cracks in the structure, and what is the reliability of the system, and what is the remaining useful life of the tower. This corresponds to money, as always. The second application we studied recently is this type of wind turbine towers that are 200 meters height, hybrid. The lower part is lattice, the upper part is a tube with various sensors on the real asset, SCADA system, sensors, strain gauges, accelerometers, and so on. And then, using the same method, we can have fantastic results that describe perfectly the current structural response of the system, the current yielding of energy, but also the future, the near or far future behavior of the system. It starts with a smart perception, with the sensors that feed the model with state cognition, and then we have the virtual perception and prediction of the response that is very important in the middle of the ocean, in particular nowadays with the climate change challenges. So there are still too many questions to reply. Where we go? What is the next steps? What are the next directions? Challenges, risks, reliability, dangers, too many questions, yet unanswered. But if we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, isn't it? That is the famous motto of Albert Einstein. But I go even before Einstein. Socrates, considered the most esteemed philosopher of all times in Athens, who never wrote anything, he just used to put questions. And his motto was, "En ida uti uden ida." All I know is that I know nothing. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please permit me to thank my groups in Birmingham University, in Aristotle University, and Hanover University, and in addition, my very close collaborators from Sichuan University, Dr. Heng, Professor Klaus, and also Associate Professor Yu Dong from Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. I will always remember when I go up to Eiffel Tower that there is something lower than, that there is something upper than Eiffel Tower. Also, I remember other things, but, and I would like to thank the previous lecturer for mentioning doctors. He is the first one to do so during this conference, and it is my privilege now to introduce Professor of Medicine from Thessaloniki University, Athanasia Printza, from the School of Medicine, Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and European Academy of Sciences and Arts, with the topic Transforming Healthcare for Sustainability and Health Outcomes that Matter for People. Anastasia, please.
Thank you, Professor Lalić. Good afternoon. Dobar dan. It is really a big pleasure to be here, and I would like to congratulate the Serbian Academy of Sciences and Art for organizing this conference. My contribution will be to discuss why we need to transform healthcare for sustainability and health outcomes that matter to people. Health systems, all public and private institutions, services, and resources mandated to improve, maintain, or restore health have a significant environmental impact. The health sector is a considerable consumer of energy and resources and a major producer of waste and emissions. And this is largely related to its size, but also to specific processes and operations, and we had some very good examples discussed in the previous session. Sustainability within healthcare means reducing environmental impacts while maintaining high-quality patient care, protecting and promoting the health and well-being of current and future generations. Sustainable healthcare acknowledges all dimensions of sustainability. It's care that does not damage the environment, is economical, and has a positive social impact. Unlike other sectors, no trade-offs can be accepted, even in the short term, between environmental sustainability and core healthcare systems performance. So the emphasis is on win-win solutions, environmental sustainability actions reinforcing health system functions. And this is a goal very difficult to achieve because this is an era of serious healthcare crisis. Health systems are overburdened and under-resourced, struggling to address the rise of chronic conditions we discussed in previous sessions and the impact of the climate crisis. And we are facing several distinct crises. It's the value crisis. The costs are rising without similarly proportionally rising outcomes. So outcomes are disconnected from rising costs. There is an evidence crisis. Our everyday clinical practice is not well related to evidence results, and there are many reasons for that. There is delay of result findings to reach the practice. There is limited truth based mainly on clinical trials and very little on real-world evidence. There is limited comparative effectiveness research, and of course there is inconsistency of care even in the same organization. And there is a most insidious and dangerous crisis, the mission crisis. Patients are dissatisfied and health professionals are demoralized. And facing this, WHO is calling nations to embrace a vision whereby health systems can improve, maintain, or restore health while minimizing negative impacts on the environment and leveraging opportunities to restore and improve the environment to the benefit of the health and well-being of current and future generations. From the point of embracing a vision to getting results, fulfilling a mission, achieving the goals, it's a long way. And the first step is to describe, acknowledge what this environmental impact is related to. So it's mostly associated with healthcare facilities, direct association, but also procured goods and services. And the main relations are consumption of energy and resources, production of greenhouse gas emissions, use and disposal of toxic chemicals, and production of waste. Water consumption is considered moderate in the health sector, but still we have to monitor it since water is one of the very valuable resources. Health facilities are frequently high energy intensive. This is related to heating, cooling, medical equipment like MRI, CT. We discussed radiation oncology in the previous session. ICUs operated 24/7, OR settings. Healthcare contributes about 4.4% of global net emissions. These are related to energy consumption, transport, product manufacture, use and disposal, while delivering care and procuring products, services, and technologies. The healthcare climate footprint is strongly correlated to a country's health spending. And we had a surge on the spending during the pandemic, and now we are returning mostly to pre-pandemic health spending. There is a lot of variability worldwide, but we have to keep in mind that greater spending, greater climate footprint is not evidenced to be related with better health results. I'll give an example for the variability. China's emissions per capita are about 6 times greater than India's, 7 times smaller than the United States health sector, and about a half of the European Union health sector. Healthcare is among the highest waste-generating sectors, mostly waste comparable to domestic waste. But of course, there is also hazardous waste that may pose environmental and health risks. Awareness regulatory and technical developments are rapidly increasing during the last decade regarding healthcare waste management, but still there is a lot of variability worldwide or even in the same region. And of course, we have changing motives. There is a steady trend of more care being delivered outside of hospital settings, and this means that we have increasing volumes of waste being produced in community settings. And we have the long light 3 R's to guide us, decreasing waste in health services, reducing the volume of waste, improving segregation, reusing certain items, and recycling. But the most important of all of this is rethinking everything, rethinking outdated practices and low-value care, and of course, researching so that we get the evidence which choices are going to be adopted for our future practices. Some healthcare sustainability strategies might be more suited or more effective at the primary care and others at hospital settings. Small changes in primary care have major health and environmental benefits for communities, and these include cutting waste, lowering carbon emissions, promoting prevention. Hospitals are resource-intensive and waste-producing settings. They often can have big impact by decarbonizing energy use, cutting waste, optimizing workflows, and great outcomes by adopting e-health, by the digital transformation. Implementing sustainable healthcare goals at a national, local level, or any large-scale level can only be a coordinated approach. If any part of the puzzle, any piece of the puzzle is not working, we are going to fail. We are not going to deliver results. We need the legislation, regulations, reporting. We need to effectively adopt the innovation that is available to our hands to date, and of course, we need consistent financing. And there are several healthcare goals that can be effectively adopted at big scale, at wide level. Energy efficiency, waste reduction and decarbonization, telemedicine and digital transformation, sustainable procurement and supply chains, green hospital design and retrofitting, and of course, the real clinical practice, sustainable clinical practices, sustainability policy, incentives, and advocacy. National commitments can be very important because they are the stepping stone for all other strategies to have some impact. So when in 2021 at Glasgow, several countries committed to developing for the first time committed to developing climate-resilient health systems, it was an important step, and even several of them set target dates. In China, sustainability goals are supported by policy initiatives like Healthy China 2030 and the 14th five-year plan, but also by milestone regulatory decisions like the one that described the initiation of internet hospitals, because this was an administrative regulatory decision that supported wide-scale telemedicine that followed the way practices were developed in real hospitals. And this happened in a country where the health system is mainly stately run. So it can have great impact on the health outcomes and great sustainability impact. Healthcare is at a strategic inflection point, a time that the way we do things must fundamentally change. Achieving critical goals of quality, safety, patient-centeredness, and equity with a healthy workforce requires drastic changes of the healthcare ecosystem, changes embraced by all stakeholders and implemented by transformative leadership. Being sustainable on mission means shifting from volume to value. The healthcare systems can fulfill their mission and sustainably contain costs only by putting the patient and the delivery of outcomes that matter to patients at the center of efforts. That means aiming at value and redefining value. And redefining value can only be a multi-stakeholders project. Shifting to value means delivering the best possible health outcomes for the allocated resources. And this is based on measuring what matters. Tracking patient outcomes, a wide range of patient outcomes, using standardized metrics, including patient-reported outcome measures and real-world data obtained by electronic health records, wearables, and registries. And all this data, if it's tracked, analyzed, and transparently available, it can form the basis for decision-making. So value-based healthcare is inherently more sustainable than traditional models. Nowadays, most health systems routinely track only basic health outcomes. But we don't need proof of concept about the power of outcomes measurement. Any industry willing to improve tracks outcomes, analyzes them, and uses the results. And we have the Swedish paradigm of registries culture and how it impacted public health. So outcomes measurement can guide improvement of clinical teams, inform shared decision-making of individual patients with their clinicians, inform organizational models, planning and delivery of healthcare. This is a transformative model. It reduces waste and use of resources. It fosters prevention and proactive management of chronic disease. It addresses the full health pathways from improving health, curing disease, caring, even palliative caring, and it improves integrated team-based care. And by improving integrated team-based care, we form the ground that allows interprofessional health education to develop, and we even make space for patient-led health education, which is going to inform our clinical practice in the best possible way, because we have agency from the people who care and are going to be recipients of this health care. Ensuring healthy lives for all is not possible if we not keep in mind that the healthcare and social welfare are inseparable. Daniel Blake did not die from the first heart attack. The healthcare system treated him nicely. He died because the social welfare failed him. It did not allow him to continue living as a patient. But we are entering a new era. We can move from crisis to breakthroughs at healthcare. Science and innovation provide the potential to transform how healthcare is designed, developed, and delivered. And we have two major facilitators for that: leveraging technology for efficiency and engaging patients in their care. The way we do things must fundamentally change. Disruptive transformation or incremental change. I can say the health sector is notoriously stiff and very slow changing. But on the other hand, to date, technological and life sciences innovation allow our societies to view health for what it really is: a strategic investment in our current and future well-being and prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we are going to see the presentation from Professor Žiga Turk of the Faculty of Civil Engineering and Geodetic Engineering, University of Ljubljana, Slovenia, and European Academy of Sciences and Arts. And he's going to speak about sustainable and regenerative economics, in order to make the world a better place. Please.
Thank you very much. I will be actually wearing 3 hats during this presentation. So for most of my life, I have been a professor at the University of Ljubljana, Department of Civil and Geodetic Engineering. Since recently, I'm also a member of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts, and I'm a partner in a project called Crossrise. And whatever I will be saying here does not convey the messages or the opinions of these organizations. It is, the content is my own. There are basically 3 keywords in this title: regenerative, number 1, economics, number 2, and making the world a better place. And I will touch upon all 3 during this presentation. Can I move this forward? Yeah. It's, I think, a sign of a mature topic that it does a lot of evolution of keywords. And we started with green, reducing footprint, with sustainable, making it possible to last, taking care of endurance, circular or renewable, reuse of materials, and I think the last one is regenerative. So have a net positive ecological and social outcome. Leave it better as you have found it. And let me start with a little illustration of this concept. This is a photo from the Slovenian karst. The Slovenian karst, Slovenia is located at the north of the Adriatic Sea. To its west is Italy, about 1 hour's drive from Slovenian western border to Venice. Karst is, as you know, karst, it's kind of rocky, it has patches of green, it might have a patch of forest. It looks a little bit like this. But it did not look like this all the time. About 1,000 years ago, this is not a photo from 1,000 years ago, but 1,000 years ago it looked like this. It was full of oak wood forest, deep, thick oak wood forest. What happened? This is what happened. It was fairly close to Venice, and Venice is built on timber from Slovenian karst. You could also recognize there's a lot of carbon capture here because all this carbon is in the sea for 1,000 years. It's there, it's not going anywhere. But the reason that we have Venice today is because the Venetians cut down the Slovenian karst. So you have this. In Venice you have this. In the Slovenian karst you have those rocks that I have shown on the first slide. And speaking about our keywords, was this green, cutting down forest? No, it was not. Was it sustainable? Can you go on cutting that forest? No, you can't because it's not there anymore. Has it been circular? No, it's not been circular. Those wooden piles are the foundations of Venice for the last 1,000 years. Is it regenerative? Did they leave karst a better place? No. But they made Venice a much better place. So if I would be pressed, was there a net positive impact of this whole exercise? I would definitely say yes. Because you have many areas where wood has also been cut down, but you don't have Venice. We have 2 main concerns at this conference in general. That the planet is finite. It started with Malthus, but you can find references to this scarcity that we will run out of resources even in the Bible. And the other is global warming. And I'll touch upon both from the perspective of regenerative economies. As far as warming is concerned, what we know is it's definitely getting warmer. Human activity contributes to the fact that it's getting warmer. And it's also a fact that humanity has a lot of other problems. What we don't know, what we actually don't know, is that colder is better. What we don't know is how much exactly is the effect of humans and how much the interplay of water vapor and so on. And we definitely don't know how to solve all humanity's problems at the same time. There are some people who are trying to study that a little bit more systematically. We have limited resources. We heard lectures here about how many billions are spent on this and that. Where to spend billions at? Björn Lomborg did a study, best things first. So where should you first put your dollars and your euros into to get the most bang for the buck, to get the most effect for your dollars and euros? And he says, first you tackle tuberculosis, then you tackle malaria, then you tackle maternal mortality, then you reduce newborn mortality, immunization, and so on, and finally reduce trade barriers to boost global growth. And they are related as SDGs that go with that, but these are fairly narrow measures that you should be doing. The interesting issue is who should be deciding what we do first? Is it a few people, a few brains, some Russian Soviet Politburo, as on the left picture, or some other small group of people who knows better best what to do? Or should we leave it to all the brains of all the humans when they do shopping, when they vote in democracy, when they go about their lives? And I think it's a crucial question, actually. Who knows what is good for humanity? About the limits, growth limits, etc., etc. I remember when I was studying, we had a professor of mathematics, and he was telling us often, you know, your ignorance is infinite. What you don't know is infinite. And what you know is finite, is very small. Which means that the ignorance is an infinite resource. It means that you can learn an infinite amount of things to push the boundaries of what to do and how to do it forward. Which means that human creativity is boundless to solve problems of the planet, of people, of animals, and so on. And it's the scarcity that drives innovation. There's a thing called Simon Abundance Index, which looks at how abundant are the key commodities, 50 commodities. And what they have found over the last 60 or 70 years, over the last 43 years, is that abundance has grown sixfold, that there is so much more commodities available in 2020, the green area, than the red area in 1980. And if you compute how much time it takes for an average human person on Earth to work for, let's say, 1 kilogram of steel, 1 kilogram of flour, 1 kilogram of orange juice, etc., etc., this is going down. So in reality, there is no resource crisis. It's just the price mechanism that is driving prices of things that are needed down. It's innovation, it's engineers that are making the world a better place. We try to motivate also our students that they should be doing that. This picture is from the time when when Elon Musk was an undisputably good person, not like in recent years. He made electric cars mainstream. He drove down battery costs. He promoted solar panels, but also storage of solar energy. Pioneered reusable rockets, recycling rockets. I mean, it was like science fiction when you saw landing of those rockets. And he turned sustainability into innovation, into something sexy, into something that every engineer wanted to work with. I'm a civil engineer. I think one of the speakers here was also civil engineers. Actually, we are responsible for, quote unquote, destroying the earth. Because it was the civil engineers that made all this stuff that actually makes the planet habitable. which makes it possible that we sit here now in a nicely air-conditioned room and not in some circle on the grass on the outside, and that we have microphones and speakers and computers, etc., etc. We made the planet habitable. The planet Gaia, she's a pretty tough lady if you don't have everything that engineers and all the others have built to make your life comfortable. It's very nice to go into Gaia on a Sunday afternoon, on a sunny Sunday afternoon, and then return back to your hotel or to your apartment. So it used to be like this. Now you can have beautiful cities nearly in the Arctic. This is Helsinki, by the way, and they have a very nice life, even though it's freezing most of the year. We teach engineers. Recently we got a survey from the faculty administration. Oh, how are your classes, how are your subjects promoting sustainability? And we said, we have been promoting sustainability since ever. We are doing this forever because good engineering has always been doing more with less. I'll give you an example. My colleague here was speaking about Eiffel Tower. It seems to be one of these things that it's nice to compare to. It was built in 1889. It weighs 10,000 tons of steel. And then, long time ago, but a couple of decades later, they built a tower in Tokyo, very similar in structure, very similar in size, actually a little bit higher. Tougher conditions because Japan is earthquake prone and Paris is not, higher winds, 4,000 tons. So it's actually using 6,000 tons less resources. It's 60% more material efficient. Of course, some people would say the most efficient way would be like this. Don't use steel at all for this ugly structure that is destroying Paris, as one of the French poets was saying, and then spent all the time in the restaurant on top of Eiffel Tower saying this is the only place where I do not see Eiffel Tower in my eyes. So we have been teaching good engineering forever. I think good engineering is also sustainable engineering. Material efficiency is good engineering, also cheaper. We are doing research into low carbon materials, artificial intelligence driven design. Again, a lot of the things that my colleague from not Edinburgh, Birmingham explained seemed familiar. Cutting prices, cutting material use, cutting costs. It's only a matter of targets. Engineers can do anything if you give us the right targets. If you give us a target that CO2 should be, a price should be put on CO2, we will target that. If the price will be on something else, we would target that. My specialty is building information modeling. It's actually very similar to digital twin. Digital twin is the next buzzword, or a buzzword that means something fairly similar. The idea is that before you build something, you create a digital replica of that thing. And the idea is that you can do very sophisticated analysis, and you can push the decisions, also the decisions to make it sustainable, to make it lower resource intensive, to make it lower environmental impact. You push all these decisions to the left, to the earlier stages of design, so that environmental efficiency is not a kind of afterthought. So when you have the building created, then you say, okay, let's put some insulation and stronger windows so that we tick all the boxes of sustainability. No, you make the initial design, how you orient the building, how you orient it towards the sun, what kind of volumes you make. There's where you start doing that. And of course, information technology helps you with that. You create a digital model, you create a database which is not geometry only, but basically everything anyone wants to know about that building. As far as climate change is concerned, I also show this to my students. I say this is a huge opportunity for us in construction. because we have work to do. Because it's getting warmer, we have work to do. And because governments have various kinds of policies to be more sustainable, again, we have work to do. Double winner of climate change. This is actually a study of Deutsche Bank when they were kind of trying to calculate which industries to support and which industries not to support in the context of global warming. Going to the Crossrise project, this is a project in the Horizon Europe scheme, very well managed and led by the University of Niš here in Serbia. It's building a network of researchers, but also broadening this community into civil service, into businesses across Western Balkans, plus some European countries, as you see on the map, Spain, Italy, Norway, Slovenia, etc. Focuses on construction waste, on urban biodiversity, of entrepreneurship. Yes, it's regenerative, leaving the world a better place, leaving the construction site or leaving the sites better than we found them, but it's also economics. It's also about producing wealth, and not producing wealth just like that, but producing wealth for the people, for the inhabitants, for the citizens. This might be interesting also for this community. We have started Journal of Regenerative Economics, JRE. So far, diamond open access, nobody pays, so you can publish in this journal for free without any author charges. We would be even happy to publish a kind of special issue of this conference, etc., etc. The organizers could contact me or somebody else if that would be interesting. So in conclusion, and I will conclude about this idea, we should make the world better. We also have, my university also has a bilateral project with China, with Tsinghua University, with Professor Zhiliang Ma. And we did a lot of excursions, them coming to Europe. We went to China and visited several companies, construction companies, software companies of engineering design. And in one of these lectures, what struck me was there were some Chinese characters, always the same Chinese characters on that slide, and it was repeating on every slide kind of as a footnote. And I was asking Cookie, what's that? What was that all about? I'm not sure that explain it to us. And the quote was, people's aspiration for a better life will not change. And the author of this quote is Xi Jinping. And they had it on every slide. I think also it helps in China if you quote the top politician when you do presentations. And I think this is very true. And this is something that we in the West, who are a little bit spoiled with the quality of life, with the infrastructure that we have, with the level of development that we have, we tend to forget this. But this is what engineers, policymakers, NGOs, etc., should be concerned with. That people are interested in having better life. Every year, a little bit better. Things should be improving, and this should guide policies. And we should be aware, although at conferences like this it's not fashionable to say this, but never before have we fed so many billions of people and fed them well. Never before so many billions of humans went to good schools, or to schools at least. Never before were commodities so abundant and accessible. Never before so many had access to the universal library of knowledge called the Internet and could learn everything about anything. Never before. So I think the greatest danger is not climate change, is not that we will run out of this or that raw material. The greatest danger is that we destroy this delicate mechanism that enables that I have bottled water here, that I have a microphone, that I have a computer, that I will have a hotel bed. Because we are not living in times where, well, okay, I'm living in my village. If everything breaks down, maybe I will have trouble getting the salt from somewhere, but everything else I get on my own garden. No, the world is so connected, so dependent on each other, on everything, that this is, I think, the number one to be preserved. So whenever, and this is a self-reflection on the subtitle I gave to my talk, make the world a better place. We all want to make the world a better place, but I think the important thing is to acknowledge first that the world that we have is actually not bad. It's actually quite good. And proceed from here. Before we say, oh, we'll make it better, we'll throw everything we have away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor to Mariana Tian from Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, and the talk would be on Belt and Road Initiative in the context of interactions and interdependence between European Union and China. The floor is yours, please.
I try very shortly and very quickly. How to start it? Here. Okay. Yeah, and now. Okay. The world system theory. The world economy model consists of centers, megacities, industrial clusters, semi-periphery, secondary but well-developed regions or entire economies, poorly developed periphery. Trade routes and communications often arising as a result of large-scale transport projects connect different regions and cultures into a single macroeconomic space, but only if they are logistic solutions. What about the world system theory? According to the most common versions of the Emanuel Wallstein, the modern world system originated around 15th, 17th century, and by the beginning of the 20th century had encompassed the entire world. According to him, it consists of core, including the most developed countries of the West, the collective West, semi-periphery, the new democracies of Central and Eastern Europe, and periphery, the global South. This is the map of the world system according to Wallstein. In blue, the center, yellow, semi-periphery. In purple color, periphery. These three elements, center, semi-periphery, periphery, are in constant interaction, and socio-economic changes in them cannot be understood outside of it. The state of any community is not constant. Changes in the core lead to changes in the semi-periphery and the periphery. The most mobile part of the world system is the semi-periphery. From its composition, some countries move towards the core and other towards the periphery. The role of the semi-periphery is twofold. It is both the stabilizer of the world system and the agent of change in it. This is a general model of the social system with semi-periphery and periphery. In the middle is core. This is the so-called triad model. Kenichi Omae, a Japanese expert, describes the development of transnational corporations on a global scale, which under the conditions of the Washington Consensus sharply increased their weight as participants with claims to equality with states in the world economy. The main part of the international activity of enterprises is concentrated precisely in highly developed countries, with the choice of location being predetermined by the needs of production of high-tech goods, USA, Germany, European Union, Japan. This is a common market for the rich citizen of the triad is formed. The infrastructure built in the last few decades mainly serves the ever-growing exchange between these three centers. These trade and transport links between the centers of the trade. Map of the 10 pan-European transport corridors. Franz Flank's trade route theory describes the mechanism by which the center, semi-periphery, and periphery interact and change. Two main trade axes, east-west, Novgorod, Santiago de Compostela, and north-south, London, Rome, have permanently connected the different parts of the continent over the last 1,000 years and have historically determined the international divisions of labor. Via the Volga River, this route connects Central Europe and Central Asia. In addition to the main train axis, there are other routes. The Mediterranean route connecting Southern Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, the Baltic route, the continuation of the Silk Road from southeastern to Central Europe. Traditional Euro-Asia trade routes. The most famous is the Silk Road, you know, the network of trade routes spanning 6,400 kilometers, operating from the 2nd century BC to the mid-15th century. This route has long economic, cultural, political, and religious interaction between the East and the West. The second is the age of great geographical discoveries, 15th, 17th centuries. The attempt of the Turks to impose a trade monopoly forced the traders of the Atlantic coast of Europe, Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, British, and French, to look for alternative routes. This became possible with the advent of ocean-going sailing ships, allowing the transportation of heavy and expensive goods. Thus began the era of the great maritime empires. What significantly changed the weight of individual regions? On a global scale, this situation can significantly change the weight of individual regions in the world economy. At one point, Central Asia was highly developed economically these years, forming the center of the world. Today's Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan were located on important trade routes connected East Asia with Europe. This flourishing continued until the 14th century and ended with the empire of Tamerlan. Political instability means frequent changes in the states, and the upheavals at the end of the period significantly increased logistical costs on the routes in Central Asia, while customs duties remained the main source of funds for the treasury. The conquest of Constantinople in 1453. Okay, and the imposition of extremely high taxes on trade between East and West devastated these countries and turned them into economic black holes of sorts of permanent parts of the world's periphery. The emergence, decline, and revival of trade routes. The emergency client and revival of trade routes depend on the state of transportation technologies. This is very important. The development of land, rail, and then recent decades is on track to revive these roads. Both regional and large-scale transport and transport energy major projects. In the 21st century, Chinese Belt and Road Initiative hopes to reviving the old trading centers in Central Asia, especially if the emerging new north-south trade route, Russia-India, prove its potential. It is expected that the intersection of these two trade routes in the Caspian Sea region will lead to the creation of a zone of high capital concentrations. Technical and economic factors. Technical are leading. They are leading and most dynamic. A revolutionary impact on society, causing sudden and large-scale changes, often with long-lasting consequences. New materials and methods of production, and. In the system of international relations, the main driver of change is scientific and technological progress. Economic factors are not so important, it's my opinion. The technical factors are leading. And I want to say about political factor, geoeconomic, geopolitics, and transport. The division of the world into centers, semi-periphery and periphery, is determined by logistical chains, but is strongly influenced by political decisions. Political considerations impose additional restrictions, and these are related to security. Control over transport and communication infrastructure is mandatory, and security considerations often conflict with arguments for free trade. Technical development is constantly changing parameters and offering new solutions with economic and political consideration, following suit, but the opposite is also possible. Strong political will to change the geo-economic status from periphery to semi-periphery or center. And can mobile resources simulate technical progress and develop new logistical schemes. Political risks are associated with irrational behavior and cannot be predicted, and their consequences can significantly change economic parameters. Geopolitical competition and the construction of a new infrastructural foundation of the world economic order. Unlike the European Union, China emerged from the global economic crisis of 2008 with very strong position, and accordingly US-China relations became decisive for the development of international relations, while the European Union receded into the background, preoccupied with serious domestic problems. This prevents the European Union from formulating a strategy for developing its relations with the new center of economic power. Unlike the European Union, the US still has a resource that allows it to claim a hegemonic role. For many years, China has been studying world experience and deriving solutions to its advantage. The current model of international trade was formed in the middle of 80s years to the early 2000s. The growth potential is running out, and a phase of market redistribution is occurring, which usually always ends in wars, not only trade ones. Chinese geopolitical position. You know that in the geopolitical situation for a very long time, more than 40 years of its economic growth, it has been working closely with the United States. This growth is record-breaking in scale and duration. The collision that resulted from the global structural crisis became obvious during Donald Trump's administration. It's Donald Trump 1. Considering the already low probability of depolitization and preservation of unified industry within the world against the backdrop of the trade war declared by US, China is seeking to outline its macro region. One of the strategic tasks of Chinese Communist Party is to create a large middle class within the framework of planet development. The other strategic task is to provide many millions consumers of Chinese goods in other countries, Euro-Asian Economic Community. Belt and Road Initiative in the context of European Union-China interaction and interdependence. Building an Euro-Asian economic community, I think that it is a difficult task. China is not only an economic and trade competitor, but also a geopolitical challenger for the European Union. The rulers in China do not share liberal democratic values, but rely on centralized governance as a means of achieving order and stability and offer a different model of communication with the rest of the world. So far, China has not attempted to export revolution, but it is challenging European liberal democracies that prosperity is not necessarily achieved through a liberal democratic social order. Its political influence is expanding along with its economic and military power. China is the largest consumer of raw materials that competes with European Union traders on world markets, but unlike them, it does not ideologically bend its trade relations. Under the Belt and Road Initiative, China is building infrastructure to facilitate imports of energy and raw materials and access to new markets to further fuel its own economic growth. But unlike the West, it is not exporting its political model. This is...
One minute more, please.
Okay. In the European Union, China already owns or manages many, like Volvo, Club Mediterranean, Tian, with the majority of global industrial production concentrated in China. The country is now seeking to establish control of global production. When the Belt and Road Initiative also announced, a number of experts expressed doubts, but the construction of new railway lines from China to Western Europe via Iran and Turkey, Kazakhstan and Russia is underway. And you can read this. Belt and Road Initiative and Central Eastern European countries. In recent years, the China presence in the countries of Central and Eastern Europe, some of which are members of the European Union, has increased sharply. And especially here. The European response on the European Silk Road, you can see this concept for a more active policy of European Union. The project should include several routes, Lisbon, Uralsk, Lyon, Moscow, Milan, many countries. This is northern and southern sections of the European Silk Road. Another project is Free Seas project, attempt to disrupt the Euro-Asian trade axis, support by US. Railway, highways, this is project European Silk Road, Blue Banana. And conclusion, the infrastructure of the global economy is currently undergoing and very strong diversions, economic and political, between US and China at the heart of the process. Belt and Road is able to get this step and turn depends on political clashes and consideration. The China side must keep cooperation between Europe, with European Union. Two scenarios. First is positive, assumes that the European Union retains some political autonomy, preserves its economic potential without major losses, and manages to maintain at least the current level of trade with China. This means that the European Union must maintain its ambitions and ability to actively participate in the construction of the new world order, to formulate and defend a clear strategy regarding the Chinese Grand Project. The pessimistic scenario is a new Iron Curtain and a reduction in cooperation between European Union and China. And in this case, Turkey could play the role, strong role, and much will benefit of reduced trade turnover with worse trading conditions for the European Union. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we are very much behind the time. We have, however, started 5 minutes later, but if we can have then a very short discussion, I would suggest for the first two presentations that are maybe tackling the similar issues. Do we have questions, comments? Yes, please.
Hello, you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll say something brief about all the talks. They're all very interesting. I'll go from the Tokyo and the Eiffel Tower comparison. How many people really go to the Tokyo? That is, how important is it? It may be better constructed from an engineering point of view, but does it have the same tourist attraction? Is the world, embraced by it, attracted to it? I'll just say all my questions. And to Dr. Klaus, do you see anything negative from the AI eventually? I mean, we are praising it, of course, in certain fields. Assistive tools is very important, but you see anything negative coming out of it? Do we have, when people use it, are there real problems with it? And Athanasia, if you have any comments about the American health system, which, if you go to an emergency, and you would be broken or bleeding to death, and the first thing they will ask you is, what's your insurance? Do you have insurance or not? If you don't, out. So what do we do about a system like that? And Žiga and Mariana, in a way, Mariana explained, talked about the China trade route, but in the end, it looked like it might turn out to be a problem also. And, you know, the military is always there. So how could Žiga end up with such a positive note about the world? The world is great, and let's just move on. I didn't hear anything about the incineration of babies in Palestine or invasion of Qatar without any purpose. They were mediating for peace between Palestine and the Israeli occupation, but they just attacked Qatar out of nothing.
If I may intervene a little bit, let the presenters let the presenters reply.
Saying let's continue on what there is, or we really have a high tension in the world at every level. And the presence of China is great because it's producing an alternative to the supremacist model, but then it's becoming like America doesn't like it, so it might turn out to be another nuclear force. It's not, you know, maybe you have comments on that.
If we go, because we have five questions, in fact, but please briefly.
Yes. Concerning your question about the Eiffel Tower and these onshore wind turbine towers that are taller than Eiffel Tower, one tall tower can feed with electricity 160,000 households for 1 year. So it's massive green energy from one of these. And if it is in remote place, that means doesn't burden aesthetics, environment, and so on, then we have a very good result. So this is.
Okay, thank you.
And concerning AI, that was your question. Perhaps you know, some months ago, the EU, for the first time, published AI regulation. But I'm not very happy about that, I must confess, because too much regulation in Europe is a danger for over-regulation. And we are in a strong competitiveness. On the other side, the EU, European Union, declared in this year the first request, competitiveness. Here, China. Yeah? I mean it in a good sense, namely competitiveness in innovation, because innovation is our power, the creativity of our people, and that is the basis of our welfare. So, in the end, we must find a balance. On the other side, of course, may be dangerous. We need regulations, but on the other side, it must not stifle the innovation power and competitiveness of our European countries.
Thank you.
My answer is a very easy one. Universal health coverage. This is the first thing to start with, and then we can. You asked me something about the United States health system. And my answer is universal health coverage. This is the first step before we discuss anything else about health outcomes for the population. Because it's for all. It's for the population. It's not just for some of us.
Thank you. Dr. Turk.
First of all, about the Eiffel Tower. Of course, we don't need it. We don't need it. But who am I to say that we don't need it? Some people thought it would be nice to have a monument to human ingenuity. As to the wars you have mentioned, you could have also mentioned Russian aggression on Ukraine. Wars have been with humanity since ever. I think the statistic is fairly clear that the human race is getting less violent throughout history. So the kind of general progression is okay. Of course, we cannot look without being touched by all the cruelties that are happening everywhere. But my message was that our world is so connected, that we are so dependent on each other, that if we disrupt this connection between China, United States, look at the mess that happened with these tariffs of Trump, that there could be huge disruptions in our lives, in the lives of the people. This could lead to civil unrest, etc., etc., etc. So that's why I'm saying not keeping it forever like this, but doing incremental, careful changes, careful improvements, not revolutionary ones.
Okay, and very short answer.
Just only about the leadership, world leadership. My opinion is that leaders from all over the world, it doesn't matter from which country, very small country and very big, very superpowers and very small countries, must work together for our future, because all of us are human beings, and equality between us. Not propagandas, not paradigms.
Thank you very much. So, and the very last question and a brief response, I suppose, from China.
Thank you, Professor Nebojša. I have a comment for our panelists. I suggest we should have a positive thinking. If we like innovation, we should have a positive thinking. I totally agree, like Professor Klaus, you said the competitiveness. Yes, this is innovation word. We like it. And Belt and Road Initiative is an initiative. Its principle is called co-construction, co-share benefits, co-consultation. Among the countries involved in this initiative, it's launched by China or China government, but benefit local people from country around this region. Okay, so look at the one professor, if I remember clearly, it's Professor Karls. You show the picture, you show our president, says our purpose is to increase the quality of local people's life. It's true. So how are we to judge the result of what we're doing? Does it increase the quality of local people's life? Is bad for the local people's life? Is increase their life or good for them? This is judgment. If yes, okay, this work is good. It's good. So today, our Belt and Road Initiative is benefits the people, local people in your country, in your community. They got the benefit from this initiative. Why we do not do? We share our result. We increase local people's life. It is true. Just like today's meeting, so we contribute support for this meeting. You come to here, you share the knowledge, you share the idea, you exchange the idea. Do you think it is right? Is it true? Our contribution, our work, our doing is right? Is it true? I think, look at it. Today we have this environment. We can share our idea. I think it's right. People like it. You can get this idea from other people. It's right. So my suggestions, if some information is not updated, just from some people or the website, I would suggest update the information to look at the real data, how people get from this initiative, how people change their life better and better. So we look at this is, I think, the judgment for what we are doing. You have a lot of action, I think. So we look at other actions. I suggest you look at whether or not it's benefit people's life. This is what we wanted. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this optimistic messages. I think I can close this session. Thank you very much. and to the presenters, to the panelists, and to the audience, and of course to Nebojša, who would like everything to be on time, but sometimes we slept a little bit. So this session is over immediately. The next session is starting, and thank you very much, with another panelist and another chairman, hopefully.